Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey everybody, Austin Clark here. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where I talk with and interview top leaders in business. Jeremy Weiss is here of Rise 25. He's done thousands of interviews with very, very successful entrepreneurs, business owners, master marketers, and just other experts in their field. And so really glad to be able to have Jeremy here today. We're flipping the script. He's going to interview me, and really glad to have you on the show. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
Austin, thanks for having me. And this topic is one of my favorites of all time because we're going to talk about key relationships, right? What is business? How do we even manage a business or have a business without key relationships, whether it's staff, it's vendors, it's contractors, subcontractors, it's referral partners. So we're really going to dig deep into key relationships. That could be, like I said, vendors, subcontractors, referral partners. But before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by Moxie Pest Control. If you've listened to any episodes, which you should, you've had some amazing guests on the podcast, Austin. And I know your number one focus for you is growing your team, building the business, but also buying other pest control businesses. So if you are listening to this and you're out there and you may know of a pest control business, or you are one that has, let's say, 3 or more trucks on the road, really respectable brand, tell them to email Austin, tell them to call Austin and have a conversation. Because I know there's been people he's ended up purchasing. They weren't even interested in selling at the time. And they also never thought they could sell their company for what he ended up paying for it. So you can email Austin, aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com, or text him 480-254-9730. And so when you think of key relationships, we were talking a little before we hit record, and I'd never heard this story before of someone throwing this big party. Tell me about that.
Yeah. The first thing I'll go to, Jeremy, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk politics, which you never go to in business. That, religion, there's a couple of things that you just don't do, but I'm going to. And it doesn't matter to me who's listening, what side or way you lean, left, right, doesn't matter.
I'm really scared. I have no idea what you're about to say.
It's good. Trust me. So years ago, at the beginning of his presidency, President Barack Obama, he said something that he got killed for in the news, just like, political people do. In essence, what he said is, hey, where you are today, and I think he was specifically talking, referencing like business. He just said, hey, you didn't do that all by yourself. And so, of course, the conservatives are like, oh, can you believe this President Obama? He's saying that you didn't do anything and that you've been given everything your whole life. And then, the left and more liberal is like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. And so I don't know that anyone was right. But what President Obama was trying to say, and I thought that he did a really good job, but people made it a political thing, was simply like, hey, look where you are in life. Look where you are in your business. Look where you are in your relationships. And it is true that we did not get to where we are, you, Jeremy B., or anyone that's listening, all by ourselves. Who have we had along the way? We've had parents, grandparents, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, friends, mentors, teachers. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And so that was President Obama's point was, hey, obviously, you've done the lion's share of the work, but there have been many people that have been influential to you and helpful to you and provided support to you along the way to help you get to where you are. And so our key relationships and our strategic relationships, they are no different. And back to the party. So Tony Shea of Zappos, what they used to do, and they still do, they used to take really, really, really good care of their vendors. I mean, they would throw parties. They would fly them in from all over the world, all over the United States to their headquarters there in Las Vegas. They would make a 2-day thing out of it, a 3-day thing of it. They would open up the bar, you know what I mean? And they would have a really great time. And they treated those relationships like gold because they actually were. And so I think that the more common approach with our vendors is let's squeeze every nickel out of them. Let's squeeze every dime out of them. And I don't know that that's the very best approach. And so we took at Moxie here in Arizona a really teeny tiny page out of Tony's book. And just a few short months ago in February, we hosted for a specific group of vendors one of these nights where we just had a really nice dinner. We spent some money. We sent some nice invites out. And it was kind of interesting to be able to watch these vendors that were there. They didn't know what was happening. And when we told them hey, we just want to express appreciation. We want to tell you, thank you. We want to share a little bit of our story. They thought that there was a catch or something that was going on because they're just not treated that way most of the time. And so they were very grateful. They were happy to have been there. And I believe that it made an impression on all of the people that were there, as Tony and Zappos does regularly by, throwing the big parties that they did. And so, who are they talking to the next day at dinner about that event? About who are they talking to on the airplane ride on the way home? And so you never know what will come of that or what will happen. But it takes so little to be able to stand out and to become a favorite, if you will, of your vendors, because they're normally not given that type of love or respect or whatever else. So those relationships are very, very important.
There was something also that struck you about Sam Walton.
Yeah. So if anyone's read his biography, good. I hope that you loved it as much as I did. If you haven't, pick it up. But Sam Walton, the term that he continued to use in that book is he considered himself a merchandiser, and he was just infatuated with and obsessed with pricing, pairing things together, the checkout line, displays, different sorts of things like that. And so Sam Walton and Walmart, and of course that process today is much, much, much more sophisticated as far as when you're buying certain things, buying in bulk, purchasing power, and being able to offer doorbusters or loss leaders. And you think about the grocer business or the business that Walmart is in. The business of selling everything. Your margins are razor thin, and so you have got to be sure that if you're selling this doorbuster product or good or whatever it is for a loss, that's what loss leaders are, that you're making sure that they're leaving with a gallon of milk or a bar of chocolate or something that's marked up so that you can have that beautiful, wonderful thing called profit to make your business continue to keep going and to grow. And so Sam Walton was no stranger to taking great care of his key relationships in terms of supplies and products so that he could have those things in his stores when he needed it, at the right time, to be able to bring people in the doors and have them make purchases.
Also, I want to go through a couple examples because, if anyone, if it's out, if you're listening to this right now, Austin is the co-author with Michael Gerber of the E-Myth Pest Control Contractor, Why Most Pest Controls Companies Don't Work and What to Do About It. And this is going to be part of that. So check out the full book. But what are some examples of key relationships that you have or the types that a pest control business would have?
Yeah, I think that they might be the same for most pest control companies or home service companies, and then just business in general. And so, what are some of the things that you must have and have to have just in order to be able to operate in business? So, insurance is a big one. We had a really good close friend of mine, Guffey Wright, on the podcast several weeks ago. And he's not even the agent that I use, but he's very well versed and very helpful in being able to help people identify what types of coverage they need. And there couldn't be any more of a boring topic, Guffey would agree if he were listening, than insurance, right? If you have trouble falling asleep, just read any insurance policy that you have and you'll fall immediately to sleep. But you have to have it.
It's not so boring important when something happens.
It's not.
It's oh, I hope this covers whatever happened.
Something bad happens and you're like, man, did I pay that bill this month? And so insurance is important. How do you treat those people? How do you shop? Are you constantly switching? You know what I mean? And so, insurance might be something that's common. Well, if you're in the home service space, you're traveling either from business to business to business or from people's homes. And so you need a vehicle to be able to do that. So who provides your vehicles? How often are you turning those over? Do you have like a resale program where you can turn them back in? Enterprise fleet management has been a great key relationship and partner of ours. In fact, so much so that years ago, when credit was really tight or non-existent, they were one of the only people that would allow us to purchase on credit. And we know that we can go other places to be able to get this vehicle cheaper or a more desirable rate or whatever. And we don't. And one of the reasons that we don't is because we were taken such great care of in the beginning and then throughout. And so, you know, saving a couple of bucks or in some cases several $1,000s, that's not really what's important. What's important is being able to deliver service to our customers as quickly and safely as possible. So insurance vehicles, you need an incredible, if you're in pest control, chemical manufacturer or chemical distributor, those are really, really important relationships. And, you know, so there's that. Other things that you might consider, right, as you're building out an office space or computers that you're buying or different sorts of things like that. We use a platform for all of our HR and payroll and time card type needs called Zenefits. I think I've spoke about them a few times. Really good platform, really easy to use, very intuitive. And so there's those and just thousands of others. Where are you getting your office supplies? Who's doing your marketing? Are you doing that in-house or are you not? And the list just goes on and on and on and on and on.
So on the yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, vendors, the best vendors become true partners because they care about your success and they're helping you get to the next level. When it comes to subcontractors specifically, what's an example of how pest control companies use subcontractors?
Yeah. So in the pest space, I mean, you would use either past business or use a subcontractor that for a service that you don't offer. So, for example, if you're a general pest company and you don't provide termite services, chances are really, really, really good that one of your 100 or one of your thousands of general pest customers at some point either will have or currently has termites. Well, if that's not a service that you offer, you'd want to put them in contact with a good firm or a good company that could take care of them. You know, wildlife is another one that a lot of companies don't do. And so when your customers call about rattlesnake in Arizona, javelina, we get calls sometimes for javelina. And
what do you do
javelina,
with those?
we pass those things on. Yeah, we're not doing those. Yeah, it's a wild pig. Those things are nasty. We're not touching that at all. So we don't do wildlife. Interestingly enough, you can call like the Arizona Game and Fish, and we've got the line and number for that. There's even a lot of free services out there that will come and remove things that could be particularly bad or harmful or problematic. But those are a few of the things. Or maybe you have like a big giant commercial job where you don't have the labor to be able to handle a job. We don't really have any of those instances at Moxie. We've got the bandwidth. But some of the smaller firms, they get those leads and they grab that business, and it might be a little bit more than they can chew off. And so you'll want to know people in your industry that you can trust and pass business to without taking your business along with it.
What's some of the craziest things you've been called to get rid of?
Oh gosh,
Awesome.
Yeah, wildlife is certainly up there. Rattlesnakes, javelinas. You know, people really freak out about scorpions quite a bit, and they should.
There's scorpions all over Arizona.
They're all over. They should. They're nasty. They are. They're awful. They really are. And so we get a lot of, you know, people will think that they're infested with them. We've done some pretty nasty like cockroach infestations, and so next time you're in town, I'll definitely let you know some of the places that you don't want to, eat out sort of deal. But
yeah, the restaurant, you're like, I'm crossing that off my list. They just call for the cockroach infestation.
Yeah. Not going there tonight, honey. We're going somewhere different. But that's kind of one of the neat things is that, and sometimes when we're interviewing people, they'll ask, well, I mean, they've kind of got in their mind like these YouTube sensations of these bug guys that do like these crazy types of services, and they're just really filthy and really nasty. most of our customers, they don't have bugs. They just don't. After we've been there for a couple of services, it's just kind of a maintenance, and we're breaking the egg cycles down and continuing to reinforce the barriers around the home. And so our customers, they just don't really have bugs. I mean, and if they do, we come back and we'll take care of it. But, we don't deal with a lot of that fun stuff, I guess.
What about spiders? Do you get a lot of spider things or not so much in Arizona?
Yeah, we do a lot of calls for spiders. There's only two that are super harmful. And the black widow is one of them, but even the black widow is not super harmful. The brown recluse is one that's kind of nasty and you don't really want to mess with. The way you can identify that guy is it looks sort of like a wolf spider, brown tannish in color. One of its nicknames is the fiddleback because it has the shape of a fiddle on its back. And so that's
where are they native to? Like, where would they be?
I mean, you can find them all across the valley. I don't really know exactly like where they would be native to, but yeah, you can find them all across the valley.
I saw a Facebook post of someone yesterday who said they got bit twice by a brown recluse, and it was the most horrific story I've read. And I do not like spiders. And I saw one in my house the other day and I freaked out because I'm like, I don't know what a brown recluse looks like, nor do I want to find out. So I don't know.
And
maybe
it's funny because once people find out what a brown recluse is and how that works and what that looks like, every spider they see is a brown recluse. People's minds just go to like, you know what I mean? I mean, it could be a harmless like garden spider or jumping spider or whatever, but everything is a brown recluse. Everyone's almost about to die. And I couldn't tell you how many calls, will go on and they'll think that that's it. And they're relieved to find out that it was something different. So
crazy. I'm probably that person calling frantic. Like we have an infestation everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for going over that. So it may be someone for a subcontractor standpoint, maybe a company doesn't specialize in it. So they bring on the specialty and they have another company. I want to talk about that also from a key relationship standpoint. There's good and there's bad, right? We've talked about the good. There was a time with, I think we were chatting before about the vehicles, right? And you've had good experiences, but you also, before you got to that good experience, you had a bad experience.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say there is it should be a red flag. And I'm all about saving a buck and, that sort of thing. But it should definitely be a red flag, or you should really consider strongly perhaps not going with the very cheapest vendor or company or whatever. Because maybe you'll save a buck or several $100, but there's normally a reason for that. And so you will pay any amount of savings back. I can almost guarantee you in additional time that you have to spend in either follow up, a job that wasn't done right the first time. And so, we use largely Dodge ProMaster Cities. They're mid-size vans. They work really well. Well, our primary color is blue for Moxie. Blue and white is the color scheme. And so all of these vans come in white. We take them in to get painted, and then we have decals installed onto them from another vendor. And we were shopping around, got our quotes, and then went with who we thought would be the very best value. And we were just wrong. They cranked them out. They got them in and out pretty quickly, which was good. But and these are service vehicles, so it's not like we're repainting a Lamborghini here or a Rolls Royce, or these aren't $25,000 custom paint jobs. But for what we were paying and what we were getting, we expected a little bit more. And so as we've made switches over the years from different vendors, we've certainly not looked at the lowest cost, lowest price. And sometimes you get in that habit when you're first starting out. Money's tight. You're doing a lot of the work on your own. But I think that at some point you have to consider your time and really all of the value that you get by choosing a vendor.
In that situation, something was happening with the paint.
Yeah. In this specific instance, I mean, it was just like, this was like after 2 or 3 weeks, like parts or areas that had been painted were like bubbling up and flaking off. And so, I mean, let's say that those paint jobs cost us $1,500, right? Well, maybe the next best bid is in terms of price was 2,000. And so consider that, right? You've got a vehicle that you've invested an additional $1,500 in to get painted. A couple of weeks later, it's flaking off. You then at that point have to make a phone call, take some pictures, write an email. Hey, Mr. Vendor, this is what's going on. They might go back and forth a little bit. Oh no, couldn't have been, or whatever it is, right? And then you get to the bottom of it. All right, yeah, bring it back in. Then you're bringing it back in. Someone had to drive it there. You had to put gas in, the vehicle to get it there. It's off the road for, a day, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks. They have to remove all of the paint, put a new coat of paint on. It's already been decaled, so the decals come off. And so, so think about that, right? Like just in that little scenario, would you rather save, right, $500 or pay $2,000 or $500 more to be able to have that job done right, and you're good to go for however many years?
I love it. Yeah, totally. When you lay it out like that, it's so obvious, right? So Austin, key relationships, okay, subcontractors, vendors, referral partners. And I want to just encourage everyone to check out eMyth Pest Control Contractor, more episodes of the podcast. Is there anything else that we should mention or talk about when it comes to key relationships?
I think just really simply that they're gold. And so I don't know that the best approach, right, Jeremy, is to beat them up and nickel and dime them. You want these people going to bat for you, and you want them looking after your interests when you're not there. You want them negotiating in your behalf while you're not there, because you're unable to be everywhere at once. And so your goal and really purpose as a CEO is to be able to provide a clear vision, to be able to grow the company. And if you're busy counting all of the nickels and all of the dimes and managing every single aspect of the business, that might take away from some of your focus. And so treat them like gold, treat them really, really well. And it really is the golden rule. You do that to them and they'll do that to you, and life will be good.
Austin, thank you again. Thanks everyone. Check out more episodes, and thanks for having me.
You got it. Thanks, Jeremy. We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.